Hello, everyone. So, I wanted to share with you a message today of hope and encouragement, a message that I shared with the prayer group this morning. And my husband said, "Oh, you should share that with friends too." So, I thought I would. And this message is about contentment. And there's very famous verses found in Philippians 4, verses 10 through 13, especially the one in verse 12 where he says, "I know how to be abased and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I have learned to be both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer needs. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And the Lord laid it upon my heart to share this message because years ago, when I taught 7th and 8th grade writing, I heard my students kind of grumbling a little bit about, "Oh, we have to go to school. Why do we have to go to school? It should be illegal to force kids to go to school." And so I said, "Oh, let's talk about that a little bit." And I showed them this story about the school under the bridge. And I'm not sure if it still exists today, but this was way back in, I think, 2015 when I shared this story. And it's a true story about a group of men who started a school for the very, very poor children to attend. And they started it literally under the bridge of a major highway. And the kids would sit on dirt. Sometimes they'd have mats. They spray painted chalkboard paint on the walls of the highway, and that's where they would do their lessons, math, writing. And so I shared these images with my students, not to make them feel guilty or anything, but to help them to be appreciative of what they have. And as I was speaking to them, I was also speaking to myself. So these men started this school, and about 200 children from nearby slums attend from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., sitting on the ground, very few chairs and materials. But here they are wanting to learn from all ages. Sometimes they'd have to dodge through the traffic to get there, but they would get there. And these men would teach them lessons in math to try. They understood that education was what was going to help these children get out of extreme poverty and have a life. And so they would teach them math and writing. And there's their dirt floor gathering together. And the men would correct their lessons. And the thing that I loved the most were the pictures of the kids cleaning up their classroom, quote unquote classroom. Even though it was dirt, they still respected it and wanted to leave it presentable for when they returned the next day. And that really got to my heart. And as I shared this with my students, it would get to them too, and they would understand. I would say, it's not that you have to say, "I have to go to school." You should say, "I get to go to school." This is the little school that I taught at. And it was adorable. They had air conditioning, classrooms, carpet on the ground, playground, green grass for recess. It was the little things that we have to appreciate. And as I said, I was speaking to myself too. Because I remember years ago when I lived in this adorable house with my husband and my son in Glendale. It was a beautiful home. I had torn out a picture out of a magazine. Do you remember magazines? And it was a picture of a beautiful house, and I would hide it away. And when things got rough financially, or just when I got down, I would pull out that picture of my dream home. It was my dream house, and I would stare at it longingly, thinking, "Oh, someday I'm going to have this house. Someday we're going to live in this beautiful house." Not fully appreciating the beautiful home that I lived in. I mean, we had a gorgeous backyard. It looked like a park. We had a cute house that was just enough for the three of us, but I didn't appreciate it. I still looked at that picture of my dream home and didn't stop to look around at what I had. Well, the Lord took that home in Glendale away, and we went from 1,500 square feet to a 900 square foot apartment with our 9-year-old son. And it was in that apartment that I started to realize God heard me when I was staring at that picture of my dream home. And so He took away our home to get my attention, and He had my attention in that apartment. Believe me, I missed having a house. And so I started to confess my sin to the Lord, my thinking, not appreciating what I had. And I asked Him to forgive me. And I said, "I think you're chipping away at things to get to the true me that you want me to be." Like Michelangelo, when he chipped away at the marble, and the statue of David emerged, I think God was chipping away at things so that the real me emerged. And so I prayed again for a house, and I was very specific. I said I'd like a split floor plan and a fireplace and an evap cooler so we could save money in the summer and a big backyard for our son. And God answered my prayer. The thing I forgot to ask, though, was not for a manufactured home. So we moved into a manufactured home that had everything I had asked for, and we lived there for 11 years. And as you know, with manufactured homes, they don't increase in value right away. So it took a while for it to increase in value. And in 2016, we finally could sell the home and move into the home we have now. And this is what I see when I look out my window right now as I'm working from home. This is what I see: flowers and trees, a bird bath that my husband bought for me. And you know what? It's enough. I see pictures of my friends that they put on Facebook with sprawling lawns, green grass, huge acres of land, or big swimming pools, right? And big houses that they're having built. But for me, no. I got rid of that picture that I used to stare at longingly. I threw that away years ago. And I said, you know what, Lord? This is enough. This is enough for me. Because I remembered as I was telling my students about the school under the bridge, I remembered how proud those kids were of their little school, even though it was on the dirt. And how appreciative they were of those men who took time out of their busy day to come teach them for free. They did not earn any money. And how those kids realized the importance of an education, that that's what was going to help them. And so the Lord was chipping away and chipping away. And so now I can say, as I go to bed at night, it's enough. I am content, like what Paul said. For I have learned in whatever state I am, whether I'm in an apartment or a base house when we lived on the military base, or in a beautiful sprawling house with a backyard that looked like the park, I've learned to be content, because I know many people out there right now are suffering. And I'm convinced that that's why God is having America go through this right now, because we are not content, especially Christians. We need to stop looking at the things that we have around us and be content with what God has given us, because it's so much more than what some people have in the world. We have carpet, right? We have tile, we have roofs over our heads, we have air conditioning. Not everybody in the world has that. And so if your kids start griping about having to go back to school, why do we have to go back to school? You can show them pictures of the school under the bridge and those children sweeping it and trying to make it look clean because they were proud of their little school. And remind your kids, you get to go to school. Because now, they were pulled out of school early this year, and many of them are now appreciating what they had. And so as I tell you this lesson, I'm telling myself too, remember, even from this moment on, if God never answers another prayer for us, if he never does anything else for us, he's done enough, in that the wrath of God has been satisfied by Jesus. And so now we have eternal life that we can look forward to. When things of this earth fail us and confuse us and don't make sense, and when they scare us, we can lay in bed at night and say, God, for I have learned in whatever state I am in to be content, as Paul did. He wrote this one in prison, and yet he could say that. Whether we've been hungry or full, we must learn to be content. And I fully believe that's the reason, that's the lesson God is trying to teach us all right now. As the world goes through all this, remember, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's the lesson I wanted to share with you all today. So if you're going through hard times and you're confused about some things, just remember those little kids and how they got to go to school and how important it was and how important it is for us to be content with what we have. Thanks, everyone. I hope that you've been blessed by this story today and encouraged.